Hi, guys. I'm Maggie. I'm the co-founder of Tech Translation. I'm so excited to see you here this evening. So I guess we'll just give a couple seconds maybe for people to join. But I'm really excited to talk about the subject tonight, just parent and teacher communication, how to enhance this. So I think it's a really great topic to discuss. So let's just give a couple seconds for maybe some people to join. And I know that some people will be just watching the recording of this. Anyway, I think that actually there's one story I wanted to share before we dive in our subject. It was just like a neat story that happened to us yesterday. We were visiting some family in Dallas, and we went out to eat with our kids. And we were sitting there, like we're done with our meal, and there's this Mexican couple that came to our table. And this guy, he came with his phone, and he just like showed his phone to my husband. I was like, okay, so what's going on? So he just wanted to compliment our family. We have a large family. So I just wanted to compliment our family and our kids, how well they behaved in the restaurant, and just say how awesome we are. So anyway, but he was Mexican and he didn't speak English. So he just showed it on his phone from Google Translate. It was just a neat thing. And then my husband could speak Spanish, so it was a nice small conversation. But it just was so neat to me to see that it's so important to remember that there is other people in our own country that might not speak the language, but they just make our country so much better. And I think, Jane, will you agree with me on that?
Yes, of course, I agree with you.
Awesome. So today we will discuss some strategies how to enhance the parent-teacher communication in the school, how to make sure that all your families are included. Sometimes it's hard to work just with a student when the parents are not on board. So let's just see like what can be done, how can we do it, and how can translation company play a big role in that. It's an important topic because if we just think about it, there's like actually millions of people that are affected by this. They could perform so much better, they could feel so much more included, and they could actually make our society so much nicer if they could fully understand what's going on and if they could express their opinion. And yeah, so I think that's just a really important topic, and especially, in the school, because the kids are young, they're like sponges. So this is a time when we really want to pour everything we can in those kids. So I guess let me just introduce us better, and so you see who we are. I guess I'll just tell you a little bit more about myself, as I'm the co-founder of Taika Translations, and this journey actually started a while back. I'm from a very small European country up north. So I grew up there. I went to an English school, but it was a different country, And it was even funny because my parents, none of them spoke English. They just decided to send me to an English school. But my mom spoke some German. That's kind of it. And of course, a couple other languages locally that we speak, like Latvian, and I speak Russian as well. So it was a really interesting experience. And when I was going to school, nobody could help me because they completely did not understand the language. So, of course, the teacher spoke some other languages as well, but just for learning the language, I did not have the support. And then I was just introduced to actual American culture along the way. I was an interpreter myself in different settings, different youth events, different conferences, and things like that. And then as I got married, and my husband is from Texas, so we're stationed in Germany, and that's when I pursued my second degree, which my first one is from the University of Latvia, and it's a degree in linguistics, actually in Finnish, which is really strange language to have a degree in. And my second was accounting program that I already did in the U.S. college. So I did not myself go. Hi, George. It's really nice to see you. I'm glad you joined us. Yeah, so I didn't experience that being in a public school like a kid. I did not experience myself, how it is to communicate with the parents, because at that point, all the communication was just to be done straight with me, and there were some things that maybe I could not understand as the cultural background was different, the systems are different, but there were so many awesome people that came along the way and they helped me through, helped me navigate. So I know how it is to be an immigrant in another country, and I'm just so thankful for all the people who took the time, dealt with my accent, dealt with the things that I just didn't know about the culture, and helped me along the way. So I'm really grateful for that. So that was uh, one of the decisions when we said, okay, so why do we want to create a translation company? So we want to empower people with clarity. We want to make sure that everybody has that somebody along the way who can help them navigate those hard situations, new culture, new language. You know, it's not about just the money, it's not about just the projects, but actually thinking about the other person who will be reading it or listening to that, just making sure that the person is having good time, they're not being stressed, they actually can get through things. So that was just a little bit about myself. And let me see. Okay, so awesome. So Taiki Translations as a company. So it was born just in our living room, with me just translating documents at first. It was kind of a little bit boring, I would say. But now we have grown. We're doing so much more. Like it's just translation, interpretation, transcription. There are different compliance services, which is like really one of my favorite subjects. Helping the blind and the deaf. And we have worked with so many different clients, including Apple, Heinz, Mercer Corps, FEMA, helping those people when they go through disaster. Because at that point, you go through disaster, you want to have information in your language. Like you want to make sure you understand, okay, how do I evacuate? Like where do I go? Like it's really important to reach those people in their native language. And as well, City of Boston, like I know some of the guys probably joining or watching this later. So that was just a little bit more about like what we do. And if somebody's asking, okay, so how many languages do you know? A lot of people ask me that. Like I know about five languages, okay, different levels of knowledge, but they're like, okay, so you do interpretation, translation, those five languages. No, we do approximately 300 languages. And what do we process? Like it can be legal, it can be medical, and today we're talking about all the academic settings. All right, I guess I was talking a lot about myself. So let me introduce Jane. I guess she will talk more about herself, but she has gone through the academic journey here in the US and has decided to help some people go through that as well. So could you tell me more about yourself, Jane?
Of course. So Maggie, your experience is very impressive. You say you can speak five languages. I can't imagine like me. So I can only speak two languages. I mean, like for work and for life. But then you're definitely someone I should like try to learn from. And
Oh, thank
so
you.
for me, yeah. Hello everyone. My name is Jane. So I'm born raised in China, like the first 2 decades of my life. So I'm from Jiangsu province, which is the province on the east coast of China, north to Shanghai. So my family is, I mean, typical Chinese. Everyone speaks Chinese, and senior people in my family they even speak dialect. So I go to traditional Chinese school, um, got the education from the traditional Chinese education system. So even though I got some like English language training when I was like high school or middle school, but then I don't really use that for a daily life or to like really studying using a second language as English. And after I graduated from high school, I got admitted to college, but then I also got to know that probably I can pursue further study if I graduated from the college if I want some improvement for my career. So and also I'm very interested in Western culture. Like I could choose UK or America to study, but then the first thing first is I have to pass the English as a second language test. It is hard. I mean, even though I study English, but then passing the like foreign country standard English test is very hard. So I asked my parent to send me to a private tutoring school there to help me enhance my English. And there I encountered English teachers from different countries like US, UK, or Australia. And that's when I started to really use this language on top of use that for a test. I started to use a language to talk, to communicate, to express myself. And luckily, I finished my bachelor degree and I passed the English as second language test and I got an offer from the US. So I came to Texas to pursue my graduate school almost 10 years ago and I graduated. But I mean, living
Awesome.
here, thank you. Living here is still different from like you stay in school. So after I graduated, I feel the real life started. I mean, I have no experience like living here, facing the society, facing different kind of people from so diversified background. So cultural background, cultural difference, language barrier, and like workplace things I'm not familiar with. I encounter a lot of rejections for my job application. Encounter a lot of failures for the workplace, and I'm always like, oh, okay, I face a failure, then I need improvement. Then I luckily I got offer from like Fortune 500 companies here to work for, and I gained very valuable experiences for my career. So since 2022 I was thinking about, oh, my English progressed a lot because I went to tutoring school back in China. Maybe now here I have a degree in STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So probably maybe I can use my talent to help the American kids if they are willing to. So I try to apply for a part-time job on top of my full-time position in a corporate job, in a corporate environment. So I found a tutoring school here, and then they offered me the job for, I mean, I passed the SAT test for math, and they were asking me why I want to try to help. I mean, first I enjoy the science, math. Also, I for my personality type, I'm very suitable to help people succeed, to make people become better themselves. So if I have some spare time, I want to help other people. I know how beneficial the tutoring school, the education is for my life, how much changed in my life. So that's why I chose my second job as a math tutor using my second language English. Now
Awesome.
I've already been in that school for 2 years, and that's one of my best job ever had.
That's awesome. So if I ask you, okay, so you studied math in China, and we know that the school or the approach to math is very different in China compared to the US. So how was that adjustment?
So some people, I think they have some like misunderstanding. They think probably the math education maybe a little bit more difficult compared to here. But I feel here US education system for the math are more, they pay more attention to the application of the math, like how to apply the data into real life to solve your
Right.
problem instead of just focusing on the numbers. Yeah, that's what I really like.
Yeah, that's a good point because I know that, like from me coming from Europe, um, from the Slavic, background, it would be the same. Like we could be awesome in math, but it's so not applicable to real life. Like, kids would be like, okay, this I do this in school, and I go outside and I forget it all. Erase it from my brain, and now it just comes a little different math. Like, no, it's still the same. Like, so it's for all the subjects. Yes, just
Yes,
making it so academic that it's not applicable to life.
exactly. Yes.
So let me ask you a question that I guess it was just like I was thinking about this for a long time. Not super related to this webinar, but I think maybe our viewers would also be interested. So when you go to school in China, how can you learn to use the I mean, how do you learn to write? Like it's so much more complicated. I mean, so much more complicated than spelling. Like
How do I learn to write in Chinese or in
Yes, in
English?
Chinese. Yes.
In Chinese, I started to learn to write when I was in kindergarten. So everybody are, are required to write. Yeah, but it's really hard. I still remember when I was in kindergarten, when I was trying to write my Chinese name, I usually forget probably left half of my last name or the right half of my first name.
Oh.
And still I feel like I'm right-handed person. Right now I still recall, like, if I write using my left hand to write my Chinese name, it reminds me of my kindergarten time. So it's
Oh
very
wow.
hard.
Yes. I mean, kids have problems with spelling, just with those couple letters of the alphabet. So, like, how can you do it in China? That's a great question.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
then let me ask you another question. So, when you moved to the U.S., just
Uh-huh.
your initial adjustment. I mean, you moved as a student. Like, okay, how was your adjustment to the school? Like, how easy was it to navigate the school? Did you have anybody who helped you to navigate it? How did that work out?
So of course, our graduate school, we have orientation month, like at least 2 weeks. Like the school, they assign the school staff to help us get to know the school, get to know the U.S. education system, get to know like the basic local laws, or like basic like culture thing, in order for us to avoid um, unnecessary like misunderstandings. And then of course, I mean, the probably first year or 2 years, I prefer to stay in my comfort zone. Like
Mm.
when I go to school, I find my classmate from maybe China or Taiwan, who both, I mean, we all speak Mandarin. But gradually, I mean, here, Texas is very diversified. I mean, I have to, I mean, communicate with students from different background and work with different coworkers. I find out, I mean, people from different background, they are very interesting, and everyone has something for me to learn with. They're more different from my Chinese background. So I feel it's a gain actually to step out from my comfort zone.
Absolutely. How would you say, like, so looking back at your, okay, I understood like you changed different classes, but like looking back at some of the classes, what would you say is the percentage of the immigrant students there?
Oh, from my school, probably 50% will be like international students, maybe from India, China, Taiwan, South Korea, Vietnam. So 50%, I would say.
Wow,
Especially,
that's
yeah,
really a lot.
yes, yeah.
Which actually brings us to our next slide. And so, according to the United Nations, 283 million people live outside their home countries. Like, I don't even think about this, but like, that's a lot of people. If you take my country, it's 2 million people. So this is like a lot, a lot of people that are living in other countries, and 1 in 4 students in, like, if you take major cities like Dallas, where we're right now, so 1 in 4 students will have an immigrant background. That's that's 25%. That's a lot of kids, in the class if you just think like that. So schools are really diverse places. And these communication barriers, I guess they're less with the kids themselves. But if you are looking an actual communication with the parents, that's where you meet that the background, the actual culture. So I think it's just really interesting that we really need to think about those kids and about their parents. How can you make sure that they are part of the school, of the community? Because it's really a lot of them. I guess sometimes we just don't even think about that. All right, let's look at the next slide. And so it shows that 67% of schools will report difficulties in communication with migrant families. So why is that? Sometimes, like, we have been to those meetings, and we understand there's like, okay, there's 72% of misunderstandings are caused by language barriers, and the a lot of these parents, so 84% of the parents, would like to participate in their children's education, but they just feel like they're limited by the language. And I want to say even a little bit more. Like, as I was sitting like we do the interpretation for the parents or parent teacher meetings, parent board meetings and stuff like that. And I was just sitting through one of the meetings, and I was already telling Jane the story, but there was a Chinese girl, and she did great at school, and the only subject she was not good was math. And it just made her dad so upset. Like, he didn't care that she was good at arts, like, she was even fine in English, but he was just so sad that she was not good at math. And, he tried to tutor her herself, and, like, it just made him so sad. So, then we're talking with the social worker from school as the meeting was done, and our interpreters actually were really, like we have the saying, sometimes you don't want to hear all the words a parent says. Like if we were in court, of course you interpret like word for word, like you don't want to miss anything. But sometimes when you're in this social setting, some harsher words were just omit, so nobody gets, like, so the teacher like doesn't hear all the words that maybe she is not supposed to hear. So anyway, the interpreter after the meeting, he's like, okay, let me take you a couple minutes and just explain you how it works, because he was actually from exactly the same region as the family. It's like, well, for us, it's just really culturally hard to accept being bad at science or math, things like that. So I don't know, Jane, can you say what was your experience? You know, being, yeah, just culturally, like, okay, how would your parents react if you were failing math? Which of course you were not, because we know your degrees in math.
Uh, oh, I'm not. Definitely not I'm definitely not straight A for all the subject I've learned back when I in my student time. Of course, some of subject are really really good. Some are probably average, but some are not good and need improvement. Yeah, my parents are, I mean, different. My mom is always gentle and kind. My dad is very strict. If he doesn't criticize me, that's a compliment. Yes. So if I don't very well in school, I prefer probably tell my mom. But then if I got like a or A plus, then I'll let my dad know. So yeah, but then yeah, my parents both are they're both very careful about my education performance in the school. So I just don't. I mean, I try my best not to fail or I make them ashamed of my academic performance. Yeah, but then they have their requirements.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
this is something to consider when you're talking to those parents. Because for me, okay, my background is different. So coming from the Slavic background, and I know a lot of parents, I mean, that would be the same. It would be like an insult on them. And it was always funny there. Like, if you need to do any craft for school, the parents would do the craft for the child. Because it was more of the show of the parents' job than the child. Like, oh, if it was a science project, like whatever it was. Like, if you need to bring something to school, it was done by the mom or the dad. Because it's like, no, we need to bring it the best, we need to make the best, like whatever you made, the cube model or whatever, like it needs to be perfect, needs to be the best. And of course, a child in the second grade cannot make it. But for parents, there's like, okay, we will make it, and everybody was helped with homework. So from that region, when COVID hit and when all the schools started to be remote, then the parents did so much work for the kids that the kids learned nothing. Because all the homework was done. Like, we even know people like, okay, he's an accountant, he did all the math tests for his son. Like, well, his son didn't learn anything, yes, but he had good grades. So everybody was proud of him. But next year, COVID stopped, everyone went to school, and all the showed. So it's just so different. Like here in America, you wouldn't even think that. Like, okay, people just don't do it. You want your child to learn, you want your child to succeed, but like your own school days are past, so you don't do those craft projects like this anymore. All right, so let's. I don't know, anything else. Anything else to add about your experience in school versus how you see it in America? How different it is? Because right now, when you tutor kids, you can see that the experience in school is probably different than what you had when you went to school.
Ah, yes. Yeah, it is very different. You mean the like education system difference from
Yes.
China,
Mm-hmm.
US? Of course. Yeah. I feel here the US students they have more after school activities. I mean, back in China, it's not only China but Asia school more probably more homework. It's rarely that we don't have homework after school. So usually we have to do that. I mean, every day. So I
Yes.
mean, it's. I think it's a still a difference of the education system, the expectations. So probably Asian family more. I mean, care about the score, but then
Mm-hmm.
probably yeah, some culture. They care more about how to apply the knowledge from school. If it's not applicable in their future job or career, then they don't see a need to. I mean, get like straight A or something, and they pursue probably like they want to be an NFL star in the future, or they want to get a job in Hollywood. I ask a lot of my students, what do you want to do in the future? I mean, kids are so fun to be with. They they have their dreams.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes, yeah. But then,
That's really
yeah,
great.
yeah. But the parents' expectations or the education system, there is difference. So um, I mean pros and cons. I think both of them they have the good and then they have their shortages. Probably Asian culture we maybe have less spare time. I mean compared to the U.S. education system, the students. But then um, some of the things we probably get more time to review the knowledge or the skills, and then probably um, that's why some students may get a straight A. Yeah, they spend more time than other students on academic studies.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I just see one comment that came.
Yes.
I think it was really interesting. So even though teachers are enforcing students to put their phones in a bin, wouldn't it be helpful to have a translation app and earphones? I don't know. What's your thought on that?
What if you have a translation app for you?
You know, if I think about it, like if you take a child can learn so fast.
Yes.
I think yes, there will be at first there will be this difficulty like understanding, understanding the terms, but children they just learn, and when you are put in this environment that like okay, there's no way out, like this is what you have, and it's English right now, you will learn that language. Actually, was the approach of my professor at the university. Uh, we started to learn Finnish. Like we only had one person probably in the class that knew some Finnish at that point, and the teacher came and he just spoke Finnish. That's it. It was. I mean, the sentences were easy. We understood nothing, and we already older. Like it was a little bit harder than for kids. Um, so it was interesting experience. Yes, at first we were pointing fingers, just like, oh, I need that, I need that. But then you just get it. Like you get the basic words, and for younger kids, it's definitely great. They will learn that. So yeah, but it's a great question. I think that would be really good for parents, like, yes, you can have the app, but then they're also sure like some problems with apps, like we know Google Translate is a great app or similar apps, let's say, but sometimes just the intonation, how it puts the words, like okay, how you would read them, or just the word choice would not convey it perfectly. So that's why they're still humans, like yes, app, I think it's a great idea, and it would definitely help you with some terms, especially being a parent.
Yeah, I
I don't
remember
know.
when I was yeah, sorry. I remember when I was a student. So back then I don't have an iPhone at that time. So iPhone was not launched. But my dad got me a tiny study machine. It's like like a laptop, but you minimize it to a smaller
Yes.
one. You can bend it down, but I have a screen and I have a small keyboard. So that's the only I mean study tool for translation. So I cannot call people or text people, but that small, learning machine, I can use that to translate English to Chinese or Chinese to English, and also it has a function to do the pronunciation. And some small
Oh,
games
yeah.
for like IQ development, like math
Yeah.
or something. So it's get distraction, but then it's also a good. Have a screen to learn the English translation thing.
Awesome. Well, we actually have one more comment that I guess it's a good thing to address right now. Maybe you can
Thank
share
you.
your insights as well. So, while studying, did you ever have a moment where language misunderstandings turned into a funny story? Well, if I share my short one, like I guess it wasn't like great misunderstanding, but I was also an exchange student in Finland. So as I was telling you, I went to English school in Latvia, and then in the university, I went for one exchange year in Finland. So we had also international students. Everybody was international, but then of course you have people like from Switzerland who are perfect in all three languages. You know, they're perfect in German, perfect in French, and perfect in English. Well, that was the neighbors that we had. He was from Switzerland, just a perfection. But my English was good in the sense that I could talk about politics, I could talk about world hunger problems, you know, like whatever world problems I could talk about. But the only things that I could not talk about were just the simple things like um, frying pan. Like I don't know how to call that thing. So and there we are, like these girls from three different countries. Our common language is English, and none of us knows how to call those basic things like utensils, you know, dishwasher liquid, yeah, whatever things. Like we didn't know those words. We could all talk about politics greatly, but all the basic survival things we didn't know. So the guy from Switzerland, he's like, you know, I come to your guys' place, and I'm just like, my English is just degrading because you call everything a thing. No, it has a name. It's not just a thing. You know, it's a measuring cup. It's a frying pan. So anyway, that was my funny moment. You know, with being super academic, you know, like our school was just so, yeah, we're talking about academics so much, you know, and also global problems that we could not talk about just the basic things in life. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I so there's a funny thing. So last Christmas, so from the tutoring school, we have like gift exchange among like the teachers. So I got a gift of for my Christmas from the school as a clock, but the clock in Chinese it's pronounced as zhong, but then also zhong in another Chinese word means the end. So if you give a Chinese people a clock, which sounds in Chinese a zhong, it means you wish that person to be in the end. Like their life to be an end. So the clock, if you Google the top 10 gift to avoid to give it to a Chinese person, the clock is probably the top three. So
Wow,
yeah,
that's really
so
funny.
yeah, but then I got a gift from American. So of course I didn't send it back. They will expect me to unwrap the gift, see my reaction in front of everyone, and
Wow. Yeah, it's a
I'm
common American way, right?
I'm the only Chinese teacher in a school, so it's a little bit
Right.
embarrassing, but it's a, but then I'm sure I heard of it. So I was googling, and I saw that clock is a top three like things to avoid
Oh,
gifting to a Chinese person. But then, that's a funny thing. Obviously, that American person that didn't realize that.
right,
Yeah,
right. Otherwise, it's a great gift, right? But that's funny. That's a really good
yes,
story.
yeah.
So here comes our next question, and I think that will help us move to our next slide as well. Um, so I am suggesting interpreters for parent-teacher conferences, and does the school have a budget for this? Yes, a great question, and yes, I think it's really good idea to have interpreters for parent-teacher conferences. Sometimes, even with parents that say that they speak English enough, like sometimes parents will say that, uh, but then you come to the meeting and it's like, well, yes, the parents definitely speaks English, but is it enough to actually talk about all the concerns, you know, deeper, like discuss the problems or discuss the plan of actions. Sometimes it's just not enough. So yes, if the parent is really confident, like okay, 100% confident that uh, he will have or she will have enough English, English is really good levels, and yeah, of course you don't need the interpreter, but like if there is this like hesitations, then it's always a good idea to get an interpreter, and usually yes, there is budget for that. And as we're talking about this, actually, there's more than just parent teaching teacher conferences. There is also we call it multi-channel communication. So there are different platforms like text, emails, videos that you could do in the minority languages of your region. Like usually, and then we will have all of your main languages, like whatever language you have. Like I know in Boston, it's like 11 languages that would fall into this minority language categories, that you just do all the stuff in those languages. And then you would do your meetings with parents. And one time we had a really interesting thing, like the teacher was sending multiple emails to schedule the meeting with the parent, and the parents just were not replying. So I don't really know why couldn't they use Google Translate, but anyways, they were just not replying. There was like, one-way communication, and they really want to get a meeting. So we are talking to the social worker from the school. So she was telling us that, and it's like, well, how about we give that person a call? Like we can give it like, oh, we can call with you, or we can just give a call and ask. And actually worked, after that we managed to schedule the meeting, the interpreter was there, and the parent was just so glad that somebody actually took time and called and spoke her language, and it was really, really great experience for her. And I think that definitely helps them to feel like they're part of the school a lot better. And just remember, there's this flexible meeting times. It's like actually a good point, because the other thing, like if you're working, let's say you have, Afghan family in your school, remember that there are prayer times that, of course, we don't think about those, but some of the parents, if they are very conservative, they will observe their prayer times, the Muslim families. So just important thing to remember, like don't try to schedule it exactly when they will not be available. So just those tiny things. So sometimes we tell the school like, okay, you have a new family. It's from a very different regions that you haven't had before. We can just arrange you a meeting with one of the interpreters that is exactly from that area of the world, and you can talk about the background, talk about whatever important things the person has to say about the region, like maybe what they went through, like somebody went through war, some kind of conflict, different things. So then you can understand the background of the child and of the family a lot better. I don't know if Jane has anything to do. You have anything to add?
Yeah, I have coworker. He is, second generation immigrant from Mexico country. So his parents completely don't speak any English, but then he's born and raised here in the U.S. and then he worked in the U.S. company, and then we completely don't have any language barrier. And now I was talking to him while he was, what he did while he was in school. He said sometimes he act as a bridge between him and between the parents and the school, because he can speak Spanish, and the school, and also he is good at English. So the school sometimes, ask him to do the translation in between the school and the parent, and then it doesn't have much difficulty for. Also his parents is in his like English speaking country for a while. They can understand probably to a certain percentage of what the school tried to convey. So the communication doesn't have a lot of difficulty. And also, I would suggest like school when they hire the teacher to consider more the DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, for the teacher's background. Uh, so so some school zones probably the teachers are majority of certain like racial like percentage, but then some of the racial percentage are less represented. But if the school originally hire students from, teachers from different background, or like they originally have their mother tongue other than English, then the teacher can act as an interpreter. I mean, that then the budget can be omitted, and also enhance the diversity, equity, inclusion of the school, and and ultimately it will benefit the school itself.
Yeah, it's a good point. I know we work with the city of Dearborn, and they have a lot of Arabic speakers, and so
Oh,
all the office, like actually all the offices, they hired Arabic speakers to be there on staff. Yes, if you have a language that's that major in your area, of course it's great to have somebody who can support it on the spot. So, as we are talking about this, we already touched some points that were on the next slide, and that was integrated cultural support. Yes, we're talking about this, that it's just good to remember that it's just a lot more than words. And if you have those different nationalities, like we said, so maybe you have somebody on your staff that can support that, or you do this cultural sensitivity training, which of course we can help you with that as well. Just that involves this, and then you have those cultural ambassadors who can help, just at least to understand those kids. Even if the kids speak English, they have different background story that you might want to touch. So we have another comment, and it will also help us move forward a little bit with our presentation. So, what tools or apps do you recommend for helping teachers communicate more easily with parents who speak different languages? So, actually, yes, that's a great question, and I think we can go to the next slide, and that will help us also answer this question. So there are different tools, the different apps. One of the things that we have, like we have access to pretty much live interpreters over the phone on the video call. Yeah, and sometimes video calls are like a lot more helpful. So if you have something that you need to address urgently, you don't need to wait for your scheduled conference. You can just call in, select your language, and then you'll get connected to interpreter right away. And it'll be a live human. It's not like computer based. So that can be really helpful, especially in those pressing situations. Somebody got upset, like what do you do? So you just call in, and that would be really great. Not expensive, you just pay per minute. So it's a really good idea for that. So and then we can look at the third strategy that will actually yes, touch base on this as well. So of course real-time translation apps, like on-demand service. So if you just use, sometimes say, okay, so can I just use Google Translate? Yes, but it might come across disrespectful. Can be different ways that it comes across. So if you just use purely I do not fully recommend it. Like there should be a human involved. I don't know if some of you saw there was a great video when they were showing AI, and it was during the COVID time, there's one of the leaders in Spain. He was doing the Christmas speech, and he was talking about all the people, of course, suffered and relatives died, and the AI was interpreting him and just made this sound almost funny. So, positive note, like, okay, many people died, so we have more room for everybody to live, something like that. And it was like, no, that's not what he was saying. So you need to be careful with those pure AI translation apps or interpretation apps. But calling in on-demand service, that's definitely a great addition, and a great human element to those. Uh, all right. I don't know. Do you want to add anything else to that,
I
Jane?
think I think Maggie's already, I mean, included everything I was thinking of. I thought the latest like iPhone or Samsung already included the AI translation, instant translation, right? Like someone speaking in maybe German
Yeah.
language, and the AI will translate into English, and another person reply English, and the AI will translate back in the German language. So I think the technology is already good. But then for more detailed or more things, probably you want to communicate. I mean, probably in a detailed way, and then you have a lot of content you want to say. I think probably written email would be I mean, what everything you say is documented, and then you can list like bullet points, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points you want to communicate to the school, and the school will reply you back, and you can refer to what the school say and just translate. And you don't have to, I mean, you can take your time to translate, and you can also
Yeah.
make a record, make a documentation of what the school says. So you remember everything.
Yeah, and we have
Yeah.
a good example on that. Actually, okay, here's one more comment. So AI and Google Translate still have limitations for professional and sensitive use. Yes, important to remember that you don't want to put any of your sensitive information and public, like chat GPT and stuff like that. Yes, of course you don't want to do that. So you would not share your students information there. So we want to look really quick on this example from Toronto District School Board, which was faced with an interesting challenge. It had 14 different languages across their schools, and they needed more efficient, culturally aware approach to engage the immigrant families, as they just felt like really poor engagement and the performance wasn't so good. So what does it do? They developed a multilingual digital portal, which is really great. Like, yes, we can send emails, we can send text, but how about we put it all in one portal so that parent has access to it, at any time, from anywhere, and just has everything, all the student information there, all the notices, all the information about events, whatever stuff, scheduling meetings, it's all, now we have like, you know, Google-based solutions are just so great, for just developing that portal saying that doesn't need to be fancy. So as it did that, so they translated everything to 14 different languages here. But whatever they needed to spread the information with parents, it was 14 different languages. And so they implement this cultural ambassador program as well, because so sometimes you need this human support on top of that. And that really helped. So, and this is the result that they saw: 85% increase in participation, 47% improvement in academic performance, and 92% satisfaction was reported by families who felt more connected to the school community and more involved in their children's education. So it was really great study, great test. And I think that would be really good if you, like, even in English, it's great to have a portal, where you access all this information, because especially have multiple kids, you tend to forget some things. But this was in 14 different languages. So that was the great thing, and not so crazy hard to even make, to develop nowadays. It's really, we have a lot of different softwares that can do that. So it could be a great solution for any school. All right, let's look at the next one. And this is actually from San Francisco School. And they start to do this cultural competence training for teachers and staff, and use of interpreters and cultural ambassadors. Like we mentioned many times today, the cultural ambassador. So, and I saw 89% of families report increased trust, because it's so important for parents to understand what's happening in the school, especially it's a different system, like we're talking, okay, from our backgrounds, American school system is different. So how do I navigate? How do I understand what's going on? And how do I trust that my child is actually getting that great education that I want them to get, right? So it's so important when somebody really understands the parents. And there was 92% increase of teachers collaboration with immigrant families, and great reduction in cultural misunderstandings. So I think that those was really some really great results that we can see. And it's like there is budget for this. It's just, I guess, willingness to do that, maybe to go an extra step, to get a little bit out of your comfort zone, as you're working with these different cultures. But it will bring so much more satisfaction to the families and to the community as a whole. So I don't know. Do you have any other ideas, like how can we improve this parent communication, teacher communication? Any other
Uh,
points?
I think the cultural competence training is also one of the bullet points that I want to mention in this webinar. I mean, this is really a very competitive point to enhance cultural understanding from each other. Like, the training should, it doesn't have to be so time consuming or to be too detailed. But then at least like basic, like commonly known a culture for a country that, I mean, that should be shared among the parents and the school. Like
Yeah,
what's the, like a
absolutely.
top, yeah, that's what is like considered to be rude uh, in America, or what is like some topic like people try to avoid in Vietnam. I mean, at
Right.
least get make people get an impression of that. And also, I hope, I mean, school maybe can hold some events for like company even hold events for team building, for like coworkers to like feel like they're part of part of the team, part of the family. And then also the school can also help like from time to time, maybe once in a year or twice in a year, like team building, like parents events, so different parents from different backgrounds can join, they can communicate, they can have a chance to voice, instead of like, I mean, I see the children in school, the parents, unless their kids have the same schedule for the school, they will never meet each other. They just don't have a chance to really get to know each other, unless their kids at the same, they attend the same time for the school, and then they parents just wait outside, they probably get a chance to talk. So if school can hold some events like similar to company the team building events, I think it will break, I mean, it will be an ice breaking thing.
Absolutely.
Yes. And
Yeah,
also for,
then it
yeah,
can tap into
networking.
wealth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it can tap of the into wealth of those communities, you know. So it's
Yes,
not just a
yes,
burden on your school, but it's actually a really great asset that you have.
yes, yes,
And it's also a great asset, you know, for the other kids. Like, actually, you can experience these cultures right here in your school, you know. You don't need to travel to Vietnam to like talk to Vietnamese people, you know. That I think
yes,
that's a really great thing.
yeah, yes.
Yeah. So if we just do a quick recap, so okay, so what was the key strategies? Multi-channel communication, like we talked about the emails, the conferences, you know, maybe the some kind of portal and integrated cultural support, like we said, you know, like you're saying, yes, it's training, you know, trainings can be so boring, but if you're thinking like, well, it's not just a general training, but it's a training that concerns this particular kid, you know, and how to improve his life and how to improve his parents' life here, then it's just a lot more interesting, you know, like, so it's not just generic training about different cultures, but it's actually about the people that surround you. I think that that's actually would be interesting, you know. And yes, and we just remember that we have so much technology right now to use, as long as we add that human touch. So there's still,
Oh, oh, Maggie. Uh, oh,
I
hi,
don't know, am I
Maggie.
still here? I guess
Yes,
it's
you're here. Yeah, you're
just,
here.
okay, awesome. I
Okay.
guess it was just a small problems in my connection. Yeah, so if we look, so what can be the action plan? Then the first thing you do is, we can do the next slide. It would be the initial assessment. So you can just see, okay, so what languages, like what cultural and linguistic needs do you actually have? And you can personalize channels and whatever works for your specific parents and your specific kids, and ongoing support and adaptation. So just don't drop those families, you know, like you are there just walking along them as they go through this journey. I think these were all our main points today. And yes, I saw somebody said I froze, but I think I'm back now. So if there are any other questions, or if you have anything else to add, Jane, or somebody else, I guess my internet connection just saying that, okay, the time is up. So if anybody has any more questions, feel free to email us and we will add our main email, and you can get in contact with just our main projects guys. um, and then of course connect straight to me if you have some questions to me, and if you have any questions to Jane, connect to us. Like if you really need to know something so specific about her Chinese American background, you know, and experience, connect to us and we will connect you or ask her a question, because I really enjoyed talking to you, Jane. It was so many
Same
things that
here.
I learned myself.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Yes,
I took
very
notes. I
interesting,
took
and
notes. Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
guys for joining.
Thank
Yeah, I don't
you.
know, any final words from you that you want to add, or
Oh, I learned a
well,
lot
it
from
has been really
yes, of
fun.
course. Yeah. Yeah. It's always nice talking to you. And I saw different insights from the common area, and then it's very inspiring for the questions for us to think and communicate. This is a very meaningful event. I hope more can be held. Oh,
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you guys for
yeah.
all the questions, and we'll meet again some other dive in some other topics. Awesome. Okay, everybody have a good
All right.
night, and it was a
Good night.
pleasure.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.